The warning lights turned red across the entire ship. Commander Tylvin watched the displays with growing horror as one system after another began to fail. The massive engines that had pushed the sanctuary through space for 3 generations were dying, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. All engineering teams. Report, he said into his communication device. His voice stayed calm, but his hands shook. The reports came back quickly. The news was bad. The main power core had suffered a cascade failure. They had maybe 6 hours before the engines stopped completely. After that, the sanctuary would drift in space forever, with no power to move and no way to call for help beyond their basic emergency systems. Tylvin looked around the command center at his crew. They were Vel, all of them. Tall and thin, with gray skin and large dark eyes that had evolved under a dimmer sun than most species knew. A sun that had died long ago, forcing them to leave their homeworld and live in space. 15,000 Vel called this ship home. 15,000 souls who depended on him to keep them safe. Send out the distress call, he ordered. Maximum range. Contact the Concordat immediately. The Concordat was the alliance of spacefaring species that controlled this part of the galaxy. For generations, they had promised to protect the Vel. They had treaties and agreements. Surely, they would help. The distress signal went out, screaming into the darkness of space. It carried a simple message. The Vel needed help. Their ship was dying. 15,000 people would die without rescue. Then they waited. The first response came from the Korathi, a species of powerful warriors who controlled 3 star systems. The message was cold and official. Request denied. Resource allocation protocols do not permit rescue operations for non-citizen vessels. Recommend you submit proper forms for emergency assistance through standard channels. Standard channels would take months. They had days. The second response came from the silicates, beings made of living crystal who valued logic above all else. Your vessel is outside designated rescue zones. Jurisdictional boundaries prevent our involvement. This system will be marked as hazardous and sealed. Tylvin felt something cold settle in his chest. They were going to seal the system. Put up warning beacons so no one would accidentally help them. The third response was from the Venex Collective. It was worse than the others because it was not really a response at all. Just an automated message. Your communication has been received and logged. One by one, the species of the Concordat sent their replies. Each one was a different excuse. Too expensive. Too far. Too complicated. Not our responsibility. Against policy. Submit the proper forms. In the command center, Tylvin's crew sat in silence. No one wanted to say what they all knew. The Concordat was going to let them die. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, the Korathi are placing hazard beacons around the system. They are marking us as a dead zone. A dead zone. That is what they would become. Tylvin thought about the children in the education centers, learning mathematics and art. He thought about the elders who remembered the homeworld, who told stories of green fields and blue skies. He thought about the families in their quarters, the engineers in the work base, the farmers in the hydroponic gardens. All of them would die because the Concordat found them too expensive to save. He called a meeting of the ship's council that evening. 15 leaders sat around the table, representing every district of the sanctuary. They all knew why they were there. We have 4 days of full power, Tylvin told them. After that, life support will run on emergency systems for maybe 40 days. Then the air recyclers will fail. The water purification will stop. The heat will fade. Can we repair the engines? Asked Elder Senil, her voice thin with age. No, the damage is too severe. We would need parts we do not have and equipment we cannot build. What about cold sleep? Suggested another council member. Put everyone in stasis until help comes? Our cold sleep chambers can hold 300 people, Tylvin said. We have 15,000. The silence that followed was heavy and dark. Then we must choose, Elder Seattle said. Choose who lives in cold sleep and who stays awake to die. I will not make that choice, Tylvin said. I will not choose which children live and which die. I will not tell mothers and fathers that their family was not selected. Then what do we do? Someone asked. Tylvin had no answer. The days passed slowly. The engineering teams worked miracles, keeping systems running longer than they should. The food rationing began. Power was cut to non-essential areas. The schools closed to save energy. The gardens dimmed. People tried to stay hopeful, but hope was hard to find. The Vel were a peaceful species. They had been traders and artists and scholars on their homeworld. They had no weapons, no military, no way to force anyone to help them. All they had were 15,000 lives that the galaxy had decided were not worth saving. On the third day, something strange happened. Commander, the communications officer called out. We are detecting a ship entering the system. Tylvin felt a small spark of hope. One of the Concordat species changed their mind. I do not think so, sir. The ship is ignoring the hazard beacons, and its design is not in our database. Show me. The image appeared on the main screen. The ship was smaller than their rescue shuttles. Its design was strange, with chemical rockets and primitive solar panels. It looked like something from an old museum, not a modern vessel. They are broadcasting, the officer said, but the language is unknown. Running it through the translation computers now. The room waited. The computers worked for several minutes, struggling with the alien language. Finally, words appeared on the screen. We received your distress call. We are coming to help. Hold on. We are coming. Tylvin read the message 3 times. He looked at the primitive ship on the screen, limping toward them through space. Who are they? He whispered. The translation computer found a word in their message, the officer said. A species name. It says they are called humans. No one had ever heard of humans before. 3 months had passed since the engines died. The sanctuary drifted in the dark, cold and dying. Tylvin walked through the corridors and saw how much had changed. The lights were dimmed to save power. The air was cold because they had reduced heating to minimum levels. People moved slowly, conserving energy because the food rations had been cut again and again. The children no longer played in the recreation areas. They sat quietly with their families, too hungry and tired to run and laugh. The elders had started something they called the Voluntary Rest Program, which was a polite way of saying they had chosen to stop eating so the young ones could have more food. In the engineering sections, teams worked around the clock to keep the dying ship alive just a little longer. They cannibalized parts from one system to repair another. They invented new ways to recycle power and water. Every day they found new miracles, but everyone knew the miracles would eventually run out. The ship's council met every week now. The meetings were getting harder. We have maybe 40 days of life support remaining, the chief engineer reported. I have pushed everything as far as it can go. The food stores will last 30 days at current rations, said the supply officer. We can cut rations again, but people are already weak. Elder Sannel spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper now. She had not eaten in 2 weeks. We must discuss the mercy protocols. No one wanted to talk about the mercy protocols. They were procedures for ending life peacefully when the end was certain. Better to choose the time and place than to slowly suffocate when the air ran out. Not yet, Tylvin said. Not while we still have hope. What hope? Someone asked. The galaxy abandoned us. No one is coming. Tylvin thought about the strange message they had received 3 months ago. The humans who claimed they were coming to help. But that small primitive ship would take years to reach them at its slow speed. They would all be dead long before help arrived. He had not told the crew about the humans. Why give them false hope? That night, Tylvin could not sleep. He walked through the ship, seeing families huddled together in the cold. Parents holding children. Friends comforting each other. People being brave even though they knew they were going to die. In one corridor, he found a group of engineers working on a broken recycler. They had been working for hours in the freezing cold. Go rest, he told them. You need your strength. If we rest, the recycler fails, one engineer said. If the recycler fails, we lose another 3 days of air. 3 days might matter. Might matter for what? Tylvin wanted to ask, but he did not. These engineers needed to believe their work mattered. Everyone needed something to believe in. He continued walking until he reached the observation deck. It was one of the few places that still had power because the ship's council had decided people needed to see the stars. Needed to remember there was still beauty in the universe. Tylvin stood at the window and looked out at the darkness. Somewhere out there, the galaxy went on without them. Ships traveled between stars. People lived and worked and loved. The Concordat met and made decisions and signed treaties, and 15,000 Val died alone in the dark, because saving them was too expensive. He pressed his hand against the cold glass. I failed them, he said to the stars. I was supposed to keep them safe, and I failed. Commander? Tylvin turned. His communications officer stood in the doorway. You should be resting, Tylvin said. I was running a passive scan of the system. Standard procedure. The officer paused. Sir, there is something you need to see. They went back to the command center. The officer pulled up the scan results on the main screen. There, he said, pointing to a small blip on the edge of the system. That appeared 2 hours ago. Tylvin leaned closer. Another ship? Yes, sir. And it is moving toward us. Fast. Show me the details. The information appeared on the screen. Tylvin's breath caught in his throat. The ship was still small, but its design was different from the one they had detected 3 months ago. More advanced. And it was moving at speeds that seemed impossible for such a primitive species. Is it the humans? Tylvin asked. I believe so, sir. They are broadcasting the same language. Can you translate? The officer worked quickly, feeding the broadcast through the translation computers. The computers had learned more of the human language from the previous message, so this translation came faster. Words scrolled across the screen. UNSS Endeavour to distressed vessel. We have received your emergency transmission. We are en route to your position. Estimated arrival, 14 hours. Please respond if you are able. We are coming. Hold on. Tylvin read the message again and again. 14 hours. They were only 14 hours away. How is this possible? He asked. Their first ship was so slow. I do not know, sir. But this ship is real. It is there on our scans. Tylvin made a decision. Wake the council. Wake everyone. Tell them help is coming. Sir, are you certain? What if? Tell them, Tylvin said. They deserve to know. The news spread through the ship like fire. Help was coming. Someone had heard their call. Someone cared. People cried. They hugged each other. They dared to hope again. In the command center. Tylvin composed a response to the humans. He kept it simple because he did not know if they would understand. This is the Velship Sanctuary. We receive your message. 15,000 souls aboard. Life support failing. We are here. We are waiting. Thank you for coming. He sent the message and waited. The response came back 30 minutes later. Sanctuary. This is Captain Sarah Chun of the UNSS Endeavour. We read you loud and clear. 15,000 souls. We are bringing supplies and equipment. Our entire crew is ready to help. You are not alone anymore. We will be there soon." Tylvin put his head in his hands and wept. For the first time in months, they were tears of hope instead of despair. Around him, his crew worked with new energy. They prepared to receive the human ship. They made lists of what was needed most. They planned and organized and hoped. The hours passed slowly. The whole ship waited, watching the scans as the human vessel grew closer. 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 Finally, after 14 hours that felt like 14 years, the human ship arrived. Tylvin stood at the observation window and watched it approach. The ship was strange and beautiful, covered in symbols and markings he did not understand. It was small compared to the sanctuary, but it moved with confidence and purpose. The ship pulled alongside them and stopped. Lights blazed from its hull, bright and warm. A new message came through. "Sanctuary, this is Endeavor. We are here. Let's get to work." Tylvin smiled for the first time in months. "Tell them we are ready," he said. "Tell them welcome. And tell them thank you." Tylvin watched through the docking port window as the first humans came aboard the sanctuary. He did not know what to expect. They were strange creatures. They walked on two legs like the Vel, but they were shorter and built heavier. Their skin came in many different shades of brown and tan and cream. They had hair on their heads in various colors. Their eyes were small compared to Vel eyes, but they sparkled with energy and purpose, and they moved fast. So fast, the humans swarmed through the docking port carrying containers of supplies and equipment. They spoke quickly to each other in their strange language. They smiled and waved at the Vel crew, who stared at them in confusion. One human stepped forward. She was female, with dark hair tied back and warm brown eyes. She wore a uniform with symbols that must have indicated rank. "I am Captain Sarah Chun," she said. The translator device on her belt converted her words into the Vel language. "We are very happy to meet you, even though we wish the circumstances were better." Tylvin bowed in the traditional Vel greeting. "I am Commander Tylvin. On behalf of my people, I thank you for coming. We did not think anyone would answer our call." Captain Chun's face changed. She looked sad and angry at the same time. "You sent a distress signal. How could we not answer? What kind of people would ignore someone asking for help?" "The Concordat did," Tylvin said quietly. The captain's expression darkened. "Then the Concordat is wrong. Now, Commander, we have a lot of work to do. May we begin?" What happened next was like nothing Tylvin had ever seen. The humans spread through the sanctuary like a flood. They did not wait for permission or instruction. They did not negotiate contracts or discuss payment. They just worked. Human engineers connected diagnostic equipment to the Vel systems and started analyzing everything. Human doctors set up a medical station in the cargo bay and began examining Vel who were weak from hunger. Human supply officers distributed food and medicine and warm blankets. They worked with a kind of frantic energy that seemed almost desperate. Like they were afraid they might be too late. Tylvin followed Captain Chun through the ship, watching the humans work. In the engineering section, he saw something that made him stop and stare. A human engineer was working side by side with a Vel engineer on a broken power relay. The human was explaining something using a portable display. The Vel engineer asked a question. The human answered, then asked a question of their own. They were sharing information, freely, without contracts or licenses or fees. Why? Tylvin asked Captain Chun. Why what? Why are you sharing your knowledge? In the Concordat, technology is owned. It must be licensed and paid for. But your people just give it away. Captain Chun looked confused. How else would we solve problems? If I know something that can help, why would I keep it secret? That does not make sense. But what do you get in return? We get the problem solved. We get to help people who need help. We get to learn from your engineers too. She shrugged. We all do better when we all do better. It was a strange philosophy. Tylvin had never heard anything like it. In the medical bay, he watched human doctors treat Vel children who were weak from hunger. One doctor was teaching a Vel medical officer about human nutrition supplements and how they might be adapted for Vel biology. These supplements are not perfect for your species, the doctor explained, but they will help until we can synthesize better ones. Here, let me show you the formula. Maybe your team can improve it. Again, free sharing of knowledge. No payment required. Tylvin found Captain Chen later that day in the command center. She was studying the scans of the sanctuary's engines with the chief engineer. Captain, Tylvin said, I must ask, what do you want in return for this help? Captain Chen looked up from the displays. One in return? Yes. What is the price? Labor contracts? Resource rights? Technology exchange? What does Earth require from us? The captain stared at him for a long moment. Then she set down her datapad and gave him her full attention. Commander, let me tell you about humanity. We come from a world that almost destroyed itself. Wars, pollution, disease. We came very close to extinction more than once. We learned something important from those dark times. What did you learn? That we are all in this together. That when we compete and hoard and think only of ourselves, everyone loses. But when we cooperate and share and help each other, everyone wins. She paused. You need help. We can give help. That is all that matters. But the cost? There is no cost. You are people in trouble. We do not charge people for basic decency. Tylvin felt something break inside him. He had held himself together for so long, staying strong for his crew. But this kindness from strangers, this simple humanity, was too much. He sat down heavily and put his face in his hands. Captain Chen sat beside him. She did not speak. She just waited. The Concordat told us we were too expensive to save, Tylvin said finally. They said our lives were not worth the resources. They sealed the system and left us to die. Then they are fools, the captain said quietly. Life is always worth saving. Always. Why do you care? You do not know us. We are not your people. Captain Chun was quiet for a moment. Then she said, let me tell you what we say on Earth. We say that we are all human. But what we really mean is that we are all people. All lives matter. All suffering matters. When we hear someone crying for help, we answer. That is what makes us who we are, even when it costs you, especially when it costs us, because that is when it matters most. Tylvin looked at this strange human captain with her simple, powerful philosophy. Your species is very different from the Concordat. Good, Captain Chun said firmly. Now, let me tell you what we have learned. We cannot repair your engines. The damage is too severe, and we do not have the parts. Tylvin's heart sank. Then we are still doomed. I did not say that. We cannot repair the engines, but we can tow your ship. Tow us? Where? To Earth. It is far from here, outside the Concordat's usual territory. The journey will take about 2 years at our best safe speed. She smiled. It will be slow, but we will get there. 2 years? But your ship is so small, and you have your own mission. Our mission now is getting you to safety. Nothing else matters. She stood up. I need to speak with your council. We need to discuss the journey and what you will need. Will you arrange a meeting? Tylvin stood as well. Of course. But Captain, I must ask one more thing. When we reach Earth, what happens then? Will Earth welcome 15,000 refugees? Captain Chen smiled, and it was a smile full of warmth and certainty. Commander, Earth has been sending us messages since we told them about you. Every nation, every city, every community wants to help. They are already preparing housing, schools for your children, jobs for your people, cultural programs. Her smile grew wider. We are good at welcoming strangers. We have had a lot of practice. Why? Because everyone on Earth is descended from migrants and wanderers. We all came from somewhere else, went somewhere else, looking for a better life. We understand what it means to be far from home and afraid. She placed a hand on his shoulder. You will be safe with us. I promise. Tylvin believed her. The 2-year journey to Earth changed everything. At first, the Vel were cautious around the humans. They had been abandoned by the Concordat, and trust did not come easily anymore. But the humans were patient. They worked alongside the Vel every day, sharing food and stories and laughter. 6 months into the journey, Tylvin realized something important. The humans had not just saved the Vel. They had become friends. In the engineering sections, human and Vel teams worked together so smoothly, it was hard to remember they were different species. A human engineer named Marcus taught the Vel about human power systems. In return, the Vel engineers showed Marcus their techniques for recycling energy that the humans had never considered. This is amazing, Marcus said one day, studying a Vel energy converter. We have been trying to solve this problem for years. Can I share this design with Earth? The Vel engineer, a young female named Keshri, looked surprised. You want our technology? Only if you are willing to share it. We share ours with you. But this could be worth millions in licensing fees to the Concordat. Marcus laughed. We are not the Concordat. We believe knowledge should be free. That way everyone benefits. He paused. But only if you are comfortable sharing. It is your design. Keshri thought about it. Then she smiled. Teach me more about your fusion systems, and I will teach you everything about our converters. Deal. Deal. This happened again and again throughout the ship. Humans and Vel shared knowledge freely, each learning from the other. It was so different from the Concordat way that some older Vel found it hard to accept. They must want something, Elder Sihel said during a council meeting. She had recovered her strength thanks to the human medical team. No one gives without expecting something in return. I have asked Captain Chen many times, Tylvin replied. She always says the same thing. Helping us is its own reward. That cannot be true. It makes no economic sense. But as time passed, even the skeptics began to understand. The humans genuinely wanted nothing except to help. It was built into their culture at such a deep level that they found the very question strange. Food became a bridge between the two species. The Vel hydroponic gardens produced vegetables that the humans had never tasted. The human supplies included spices and foods from Earth that amazed the Velas. Human cook named Rosa started working with Vel food preparers to create fusion dishes that both species could enjoy. Soon, the mess hall was serving meals that combined the best of both worlds. Try this, Rosa said, offering Tylvin a bowl of something that smelled wonderful. I took your grain dish and added some earth spices. Tell me what you think. Tylvin tasted it carefully. The flavors were incredible, familiar yet new at the same time. This is delicious. What did you add? Garlic, cumin, and a little bit of chili pepper. Not too much because I know Vel taste buds are more sensitive than ours. Rosa smiled. I was thinking we could serve this at the Cultural Exchange Night next week. The Cultural Exchange Nights had become a regular event. Every week, humans and Vel gathered to share their cultures. The Vel demonstrated their traditional arts, showing the humans how to create the intricate light sculptures their species was famous for. The humans shared their music and dance and stories. One night, a human named James played something called a guitar. The music was simple but beautiful, full of emotion. When he finished, there was silence. Then Elder Sannel began to weep. "What is wrong?" James asked, concerned. "Nothing is wrong," the elder said. "That music reminded me of our homeworld, of the wind through the crystal forests. I have not thought of that in years." She smiled through her tears. "Thank you for giving me that memory back." James looked like he might cry too. "Would you tell me about your homeworld? I would like to hear about it." That night, the Vel shared stories of the world they had lost. The humans listened with respect and sadness, understanding the pain of losing a home. Then the humans shared their own stories of migration and displacement, of people who had left their homes seeking better lives. "Everyone on Earth knows what it is like to be a stranger in a new place," Captain Chun said. "Our history is full of refugees and migrants. Some by choice, some forced by war or disaster or persecution. We understand what you have lost, because we have all lost something too." It was true, Talvin realized. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their determination. It was their empathy, their ability to see themselves in others and to care about that connection. Not everything was easy during the journey. There were challenges and problems. A solar flare threatened both ships, and both crews risked their lives to protect each other. When food supplies ran lower than expected, humans and Vel shared equally, even though the humans could have claimed priority. "We are in this together," Captain Chun said when Talvin tried to argue that the humans should take more. "Equal shares. No exceptions." Disease struck the Vel children about a year into the journey. It was nothing serious, just a common Vel illness. But the human medical team treated it like an emergency, working around the clock to synthesize the proper medicine and care for the sick children. "They are not your children," a Vel mother said to the human doctor who had stayed up for 3 days straight caring for her daughter. The doctor, a woman named Dr. Amara Obi, looked confused. "Yes, they are. All children are our children. That is how we see it." The mother understood then. This was not just about helping strangers. To the humans, the Vel were not strangers at all. They were family. As Earth grew closer, the Vel became nervous. Would Earth really welcome them? It seemed too good to be true. Captain Chun showed Talvin the messages that kept coming from Earth. Thousands of them. Millions of them. Cities volunteering to host Vel families. Companies offering jobs. Schools preparing programs. Artists wanting to collaborate. Scientists eager to exchange knowledge. "I do not understand," Talvin said. "Why do they care so much? They have never met us." "They care because that is what humans do," Captain Chun replied. "We cannot help it. When we hear about people who need help, we want to help. It is built into us." She smiled. "Besides, we are excited. We have never had visitors from space before. This is amazing for us too. The Concordat would demand something in return." "We are not the Concordat," Captain Chun said firmly. "We are humanity. And we remember what it is like to be lost and afraid and hoping for someone to care. We will never be the ones who turn away from people in need." 2 weeks before arrival, Captain Chun called Talvin to the observation deck. She pointed out the window at a small blue and green planet in the distance. "That is Earth," she said. "Your new home." Talvin stared at the beautiful world. "I am afraid," he admitted. "What if we cannot fit in? What if we are too different?" Captain Chun laughed gently. "Commander, Earth is thousands of different cultures and languages and ways of life. We have been mixing and blending and learning from each other for thousands of years. 15,000 more people? We can handle it." She put a hand on his shoulder. "You will fit in just fine. Trust me. How can you be so sure? Because I have seen you and my crew become friends. I have seen us work together and eat together and laugh together. If we can do that here, in the middle of space, you can do it on Earth too. She smiled. Besides, you are not alone anymore. You have us. Tylvin looked at the captain, this human who had traveled across space to save strangers. This representative of a species that gave without taking, that helped without demanding, that cared without conditions. Thank you, he said. For everything? Thank us by being happy, Captain Chun replied. By building good lives on Earth, by being part of our story now. She paused. And maybe by teaching us to make those light sculptures. They are really beautiful. Tylvin laughed. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to hope that Earth grew closer every day. The sanctuary entered Earth's system to a sight that took Tylvin's breath away. Hundreds of ships filled the space around them. Not military vessels, but transport ships and supply vessels and passenger craft. Each one was decorated with welcoming messages in dozens of languages, including newly translated Vel script. What is this? Tylvin asked Captain Chun. The captain smiled. This is Earth saying hello. Every ship out there is carrying supplies or volunteers or people who want to help with the settlement. Some are just here to wave hello. She pointed to a small pleasure yacht that was flying a banner that read, Welcome to the solar system, friends. The communications channel filled with messages. Greetings in hundreds of human languages. Music, poems, children singing welcome songs. It was overwhelming and beautiful. Earth the Sanctuary, came an official-sounding voice. Welcome to our home. We are very happy you are here. Please follow the escort ships to Settlement Station Alpha, where we have prepared temporary housing for your people. Take all the time you need. Settlement Station Alpha turned out to be a massive space station that had been modified specifically for the Vel arrival. As the sanctuary docked, Tylvin could see human workers putting final touches on living quarters and meeting spaces. Captain Chun led him to the station's observation lounge. Through the large windows, Earth filled the view. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling in beautiful patterns. That is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, Tylvin whispered. Wait until you see it up close, Captain Chun said. Wait until you taste fresh air and feel rain on your skin and walk on solid ground. Over the next few days, the Vel began the process of leaving the sanctuary and settling on the station. It was bittersweet. The ship had been their home for 3 generations. But it was also the place where they had nearly died, and the prospect of a real world with sky and weather and open spaces was exciting. Human volunteers helped with everything. They carried belongings. They showed Vel families to their temporary quarters. They answered questions with endless patience. They played with children who were nervous about all the changes. Why are you all so kind? A young Vel asked a volunteer. The volunteer, a teenage girl, thought about it. Because you need help and we can help. That is enough reason. The first group of Vel to visit Earth's surface included Tylvin and the council members. They took a shuttle down to a landing facility in a place called New Zealand. As they descended through the atmosphere, Tylvin pressed his face to the window like a child. The sky was so blue. The clouds were so close. And then they broke through and he saw land. Mountains, forests, rivers, cities. When the shuttle doors opened, Tylvin stepped out and felt real air on his skin for the first time since leaving the homeworld. It smelled like plants and rain and life. He dropped to his knees and touched the ground. Solid ground. Real earth beneath his fingers. He wept out all around him. Other Vel were doing the same, crying, laughing, touching the ground in wonder. 3 generations had been born and died in space, never knowing what it was like to stand on a real world. Human officials came forward to greet them. But they did not rush. They gave the Vel time to experience this moment. Finally, Tylvin stood and met the humans. A woman stepped forward and bowed in the Vel manner. "I am President Martinez of the United Earth Council," she said. "On behalf of all humanity, welcome home." "This is not our home," Tylvin said. "We are guests here." "Then be our guests for as long as you need," the president said. "But we hope that someday you will feel this is home too." The settlement process took months. Vel families were given choices about where they wanted to live. Some chose big cities, drawn to the energy and activity. Others preferred quieter places, small towns or rural areas. The humans helped with everything, but they never forced choices on the VEHL.TAEL. Single quotes, Veng chose to settle in a coastal city in a region called California. The climate was mild, and the ocean reminded him of stories of the homeworld's great seas. His quarters were in a building that housed both humans and Vel, encouraging interaction between the species. His neighbors were a human couple named David and Lisa. On his first day, they knocked on his door with a plate of food. "We thought you might be tired from moving," Lisa said. "So we made you dinner." "We tried to follow Vel dietary needs, but if something is wrong, please tell us." The food was delicious. But more than that, the gesture touched him deeply. These strangers had taken time to learn about Vel biology so they could cook food he could eat. Vel children started attending Earth schools. At first, parents were worried. Would human children accept their kids? Would there be bullying or fear? The human children treated the Vel children like celebrities. They asked questions about space and the sanctuary and what it was like to live among the stars. They shared their toys and games. They made friendship bracelets and drawings. One Vel mother told Tylvin through tears of joy that her daughter had come home from school talking about her 3 new best friends and how they were going to work on a science project together. Adult Vel found work easily. Their mathematical skills were incredible, and human technology companies competed to hire them. Their artistic talents led to collaborations with human artists that created entirely new art forms. Their engineering experience on the sanctuary made them valuable consultants for Earth's expanding space program. But it was not just about jobs. The Vel and humans genuinely liked each other. They learned each other's languages. They shared meals and stories. They became friends. 5 years after landing, Tylvin stood in the United Nations building in New York City. He was the official Vel representative to Earth, elected by his people to speak for them in human government. Today was special. A Concordat delegation had arrived at Earth. They had ignored humanity's existence for years, but now they wanted to talk. They wanted trade agreements. They wanted technology exchanges. They wanted to establish relations. And they wanted to discuss the Vel. The Concordat ambassador, a tall Karathi warrior, stood before the assembly. The Concordat offers the Vel people reparations for the unfortunate incident 5 years ago. We acknowledge that mistakes were made. We are prepared to resettle the Vel in Concordat space and provide financial compensation. The room was silent. Everyone looked at Tylvin. He stood slowly. He looked at the Concordat ambassador, then at the human representatives, then at the Vel families sitting in the visitor gallery. "Ambassador," Tylvin said, "you call it an unfortunate incident. You left 15,000 people to die. You sealed our system and told us we were too expensive to save. You taught us what we were worth to the Concordat." The ambassador shifted uncomfortably. "As I said, mistakes were made. We are prepared to make amends. You are 5 years too late." Tylvin looked around the room. 5 years ago, we called for help. The Concordat abandoned us. But humanity answered. They traveled across space to save strangers. They shared their food and knowledge. They brought us to their world and welcomed us. He pointed to the gallery. Our children go to school with human children. Our artists work with human artists. Our engineers build humanity's future alongside humans. We have homes. We have friends. We have hope. The Concordat can offer you more, the ambassador insisted. Better technology, higher status in galactic society, political power. Tylvin shook his head. You still do not understand. You taught us what we were worth to you. Nothing. Humanity taught us what we are worth to them. Everything. We know where we belong. He turned to the human representatives and spoke in English, which he had learned fluently. My people decline the Concordat's offer. We are citizens of Earth now. We are home. The applause was immediate and loud. Human and Vel representatives stood and cheered. In the gallery, Vel families hugged each other and cried happy tears. The Concordat ambassador looked shocked. You choose this primitive world over the Concordat? President Martinez stood. She was old now, but her voice was strong. Ambassador, let me explain something about humanity. We believe all people have value. We believe in helping those in need. We believe in sharing, not hoarding. And we believe that doing the right thing matters more than profit or power. She gestured to Tylvin. The Vel are not our subjects or our servants. They are our neighbors and friends and fellow citizens. We welcomed them because it was the right thing to do. We did not expect anything in return. The ambassador frowned. That makes no strategic sense. Perhaps not to you, the president said. But it makes perfect sense to us. And I think the galaxy should know who helped the Vel when they needed it, and who did not. The ambassador left shortly after, confused and unsettled. The Concordat ships departed Earth space, and the humans went back to their lives. That night, Tylvin stood on his balcony overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors he had only seen in old stories about the homeworld. David and Lisa were having a barbecue in the shared courtyard below. They had invited both human and Vel neighbors. Tylvin could hear laughter and music. He could smell food cooking. He could see children of both species playing together. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from Captain Chun, who was now commanding a deep space exploration mission. Saw the news about the Concordat. I am proud of you. Earth is lucky to have you. Stay safe, Commander, and enjoy the sunset. Tylvin smiled and typed back, not Commander anymore. Just Tylvin. Just a citizen of Earth. Just home. He looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the Concordat continued its cold calculations of cost and benefit. Somewhere out there, other species might be suffering in silence. But here on Earth, humanity had shown there was a better way. A way based on compassion and cooperation. A way that valued life above profit. A way that refused to leave anyone abandoned among the stars. Tylvin went downstairs to join the party. His neighbors greeted him with smiles and food and easy conversation. He was home, not because this was the world he was born on, but because this was the world that had welcomed him when he had nowhere else to go. And that made all the difference.